so there we go. That's about as far as we want to take it. There's a couple of things to go on there, but to be honest, I've been knocking things off. I've lost the undercarriage and everything else. You just have to be careful because I've got to redo down here again. I've done this area twice, but I keep knocking it off with my hand. So that's the trouble. With the oils, you can't just get on with it perhaps how you would before with if you're using acrylics, because obviously they just don't dry. And that's your problem. So we're just going to put a nice splurge back here, a little bit on there, and in here. But when you're handling it, obviously you just have to be very careful. So there we go, that'll do. The lifeblood of the hurricane coming out. All right, so I'm going to get this over in the spray booth again. And to be honest, going to give it a flat coat right the way over this one, just to seal down some of these oils. And also, as you can see, it's gone very shiny now. That's the oils coming back in, and then I can get the little bits back on. So tail wheel needs to go back on. I've broken off the undercarriage, and we get the wheels and the doors on, things like that, get the final fit. Then we can look at things like, obviously the lights have got to go on, the navigation lights, the canopy needs to be masked up and then unmasked for the front part, get the aerials in and everything else. So we've still got quite a bit to go. Okay, so just as the undercarriage is drying on that one, I've put the gear doors onto it. You can see like that, and we've glued in all the parts that I snapped off, quite frankly. Okay, so the canopy, you've got two choices with it, obviously masking it up, or you can do it this way. Okay, now this way is what I call the scratch way. So you just take a normal cocktail stick, cut it, okay, and then you can, being acrylic, you can scrub it away. Okay, and because you've got the lines to go up to, you can only push as far as the line. Don't overdo it, otherwise you'll jump across and scratch it. But that way you can pop in and tidy up the edges a little bit. Okay, and you can actually scratch clear. I'll drop this top camera down. The top, instead of masking it. Okay, now they do need a little bit of cleanup afterwards, but if I show you on this one, you just rub it through, and because you're using wood, it won't scratch the surface. You get a scuff mark, which you'll take out in a moment. Okay, but generally you shouldn't have any problems like that. And then obviously you're leaving all the framework intact. Okay, so then top one. The hardest part is usually just starting off. It's always a bit more tricky on a curved surface like this because of obviously overshooting. You don't suddenly want to scoot off, because if you remove too much, you have to start again. Okay, and then generally you can just work your way over. It's a very old school way of doing it, but it is a quick little technique. And if you've got two canopies like we have today, you can give it a whirl. If it doesn't work, mask one up and start afresh. Okay. Okay, so you can just scratch clean it all the way over. Just like so. Okay, and do it like that. Then if you come in and just polish up the actual clear parts, the other way of doing it, of course, which I'll show you a little bit and then I'll run on and get it finished, because this is our proper canopy. Okay, is clean off the edge, grab yourself quite a thick tape, because we're going to do it into bars. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're literally going to say, okay, we're going to do this bottom one first. So you mask off just like this, okay, and then spray that bar. Okay, then once you're done, unmask, repeat to the top once. Okay, do two lines, spray that one, take off, spray, spray, spray. If you're using acrylics, it doesn't take very long at all. Okay, if you're using obviously enamels, it's going to take a bit longer because you've got your actual drying times between each coat. Okay, but that's just really a quick, easy one. Or as I say, you can just do the one, placing this down, use an edge, okay, to one that's not particularly good. So we're picking that edge. I don't think that's a particularly good one. Then what you can do, same way as we normally do, just pop in a bit of cocktail stick that hasn't lost its edge. Okay, use the edge of a cocktail stick, just or a toothpick, just to come in, put the edges in the corners. These are all useless. Okay, literally like that. Get them in those corners properly, and then you can come in and literally just with a new blade or a sharp knife cut in the windows like so, and then we can do these top ones. Just being careful you don't crack the glass. Okay, so I must admit I've got my finger in behind it and it is bending quite a bit. Okay, so just be careful that you don't crack the glass. Okay, and then just like so. As long as you've got right down to the corners, this one obviously not, just that one. You should be able just to whip these out. Like so. Again, that's your importance of corners, making sure they're all good. Okay. Just like that. And then mask up the entire lot until they're all out. Then once they're all out, you can then just carry on and spray it as you normally would. Black first gives you a nice thick area, and then just come in then with your other colours, i.e. with this one it's straightforward, it's green. Okay, so if you're watching this live, i.e. sometime in May, you'll know I'm sort of up against the clock now, because we are 20 coming up for 20 past 8 now. Still working on this one, and obviously we go tomorrow, so this is my last sort of ditch attempt to get this one, because I've still got to get it edited and everything else like that, so it's the last push. What we've done, we've slightly tidied up underneath here, basically to make it a little bit more realistic. It was a bit heavy and over the top. We've installed the tyres, they're good, they're just straightforward push fit. Got to do a little touch up on this one, I've scratched it. The prop is just sitting on here, get my nail behind it. Simple way of doing the little white yellow tips. Take the cap off and then just dip one in, paper towel, dip it in, paper towel, and then just leave it up on an edge, something like that, so it's dry, doesn't get knocked and all the rest of it. The canopy I finished off camera, so we've done the canopy, that's all finished now, and all the rest of it. So you've got your options whichever way you wanted to do it. We've got the other one there. This one I sort of spent a little bit of time on. We've done the black work on the inside and then the frame on the back, and that fits on here absolutely lovely. We've installed the lights and we've put them in, which are a beautiful little touch. They are very nice, very clear, and I haven't even glued them in place. They are literally a click fit. They go in there and then that's it, they sort of jam in there. So next up we can start putting some of the little things on, like the aerials. I didn't want to put it on before because you tend to put this thing on its roof. What happens is that this sticks higher and it snaps off anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it first with a tiny spot of super glue, then I'm going to re-glue it with a little bit of extra thin. Okay, so just making sure it's poking straight up. Okay, so it's in there just like that. Okay, let that bite for about 5 minutes. Once that's totally dry, I'm going to put a little bit of extra thin around it. Then we're going to paint over the entire thing. It's going to be straightforward, it's nice and brown, and it's going to go on there just like that. The other thing as well, I've just painted up and we've got these guys drying. This is the exhaust. I've done it in the dark iron colour. We're going to dry brush to them as well, just to give them a little bit of colour and that sort of rust effect that they tend to get, and then we can put the soot lines in afterwards and some gun streaks in there and sort of finishing it off. So one of the last bits to go on is the navigation lights. So these, you've got two options of doing it. Really what you've actually got there down here is to work out if it's worth painting the item itself. So i.e. do you paint this clear part itself and then do it, or do you try and paint the inner edge? And when I say that, I mean like doing in here. So you sort of paint inside this inner edge, so when this guy goes on, it's a good fit. I just don't know which one this is. That's actually that side as well. I'm just wondering which is the best way. If we're going to do the inside, what we need to do is clean it out just a little bit. So this could be a little bit of wash in here, so I'm going to try and get the wash out. Okay, and then what you can do, obviously this would be red, the green side. So if we just grab our red and green clears. Okay. So what you can actually do is try and use the paint as a glue. So being very careful, a micro brush does this quite handy as well. We're just going to put the green in the gap, okay, and then you can wipe forward just to get rid of it, okay. So that sits in there, let that dry, then put the glass bit and buff it up to it. So I'm going to give it a whirl because I don't think it's going to hurt particularly. He says, getting green paint all over himself. Let's just have a go with the red. So again, just clean out this area so it's nice and clean. Then we're just going to come in with the red. So don't take gallons of it because you're not going to need it. Drop it in there, reverse wipe it so you don't have any red on any of the areas, okay. And then we put down, let me just zoom the top cam out a little bit, okay. Too much heat, there we go. So then that way you've got both of those on there. We're just going to let them dry, not totally, but enough to be able to support its own weight. So i.e. that gets a little bit sticky in there. And then as soon as it's a little bit sticky, what you can actually do is then poke the clear part into it and it welds in. So everyone's a winner, job done. Okay, so it's actually pretty much getting there now. We're almost in the homeward sort of streak with it now, which is quite nice. So what we'll do is we're just going to get the other nav light off for the other side. Okay, we're going to pop that over there so they're both safe. I might just try and fix this one in just to have a fiddle with. Alright, so you just take this one up and you pop it in, and then there we go. Really happy with that actually. That worked really well. If you can see that, if you just zoom in side cam a bit more. There we go. Actually really nice. Both those lights looking good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a go on the other side. Would help if we had it in the right way even. So I made a bit of a hash with that one. Just about saved it. So there we go. Again, you can see the red, see the green. They're on there. They support their own weight. No nasty glue marks and all the rest of it. So really happy with that. So now this top has been drying just a little bit. We can come in. Only going to do a little splash. Okay. Now it will pucker all up round there. And it will go a little bit nasty, okay, with that down in there. Once that's dry, we'll repaint it and we're going to go over it as if it's had a panel on all the rest of it. So we're just waiting for these exhausts to dry, okay. Once they're dried, we can get them fitted on, we can get the spinner on, okay, and then we can put the last touch really, which is the exhaust stains running down the sides, okay, which will mask slightly over the red tape so it doesn't look like, you know, obviously it's just been, you know, put straight over the top. And we'll put a little bit, just a tiny bit of smoking in. You could do it with some oils on a brush for the exhaust at the top, but I find an airbrush, because it's airflow, it just works really well with it. And we'll pop them in and then we'll be almost done. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the exhausts on the front, no problem at all, straightforward fit, refitted the prop, and then down on here we've been working on the aerial on the back. As you can see, our usual way of doing it is knitting in elastic, the nice stretchy stuff. To the back, seal that, touch super glue, let it sit, bring it forward to the next one, which is this down point, okay, let that sit, dried, and then the final one, which then goes down onto the back. Now this one's going to be a bit tricky to cut, it's where you need to be left-handed really, but I'm hoping this is dry enough now just to be cut. There we go. I think that's about as close as we're going to get it. Alright, so there's the aerial put in the back like that. Now normally I go along with metallizers and stuff like that, but this one, looking at the photos and things like that, it looks like it's quite a hefty one and it's in black. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to use a touch of the rubber black. Okay, so this is Tamiya's XF85. Alright, so we're just going to be a little bit careful with this, because obviously you don't want it splattering onto your completed model. Alright. But what we're going to do is just going to brush this over. Now this stuff does tend to have a little bit of a moment when you first cover it in anything. It tends to go a little bit slack. Okay, but just bear with it because it does spring back. Okay, Okay, so we just come down and then just do it from both sides, because sometimes it has a habit of, because it's like a flat thread, of actually one side's not covered. So it's well worth just popping around all the little areas, just like that, to give your thread done. If I do it against my arm, hopefully you can see that all done now. Okay, so that takes care of that. Then whilst we've got this nice rubber black out, what we're going to do is just going to airbrush in. First of all, we're going to start off with the gun streaks. So we're going to have to do it twofold, one way then the other. Alright, so what we're going to do is grab our airbrush, just clean out the colour I've got in it, which to be honest is from earlier. I just did a little touch up around the canopies, so I've got that green in there. We're just going to blow that through and out. Just like so. Okay, then we're going to take a little bit of this. Now, I don't want massive great gun streaks from this. This is just going to be a very little light job. Now, if you have got any post-it notes, they're brilliant for this, but you can use a little bit of paper. So what we're going to do, check our spray, get the right colour. Okay, then all we're going to do is going to put it on here, and we're just going to put in a random little bit going back. We don't want anything too much. These are light caliber guns on this, so we don't want to be spraying in heavy duty 50 caliber marks. Okay, that's all we want to do, just to light, literally little light puffs over the top. Now, I should have thought about this really before. This, I'm just going to wing it and try and freehand it in. Just a little bit there, a little bit there, and just a little bit off of the projectors, just to give us that type of effect, just like that. Okay, and then we're just going to do a tiny little bit for the exhaust. So we're just going to shoot it down and across. Again, nothing too massive. Okay, it's just to give us an effect. Alright, so then we'll just transfer over and go for the top. Move the prop round, just going to blow through. Okay. Okay. That's those on. They are pretty dark on these when you see all of them. So the last thing I want to do is just to tidy up the area on the exhaust, because they do have a slight metallic sheen to them. Okay, and I've got just the thing for that. Hopefully I've got one of my brushes here, which is what we use for doing all the metallic work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just lightly going to brush over the exhausts. And that just sharpens them up, lightens them up just a fraction, just to weather them in just a little bit. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do the spinner as well, just the blades, just to liven them in just a little bit. Okay, and that is it. Amazing. So there we go, look, 8:45. All I've got to do is edit this lot and get it all to you now. If you're watching this sometime next year or whatever, it was just a bit of a thing. I was off on holiday and technically I should be doing a lot of other things now and not modelling. Okay, so there we go. That's our completed little hurricane. We're going to let that dry for a few minutes. I'm going to have a bit of a clear up round here and I'll see you for the final reveal. Okay, there we go, all completed. I have to say, you know, Airfix again, the quality of the kits are getting so much better now. The level of detail inside was stunning and I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed every single minute of this particular build, apart from when the paint went wrong, which we have to blame AK Interactive Paints for. The kit itself, A few little tiny flaws, but you know, this is Airfix at the end of the day. The locating tabs, you know, just those pins where they go, and just make sure they're clean. It'll make things a lot easier to go together. So a few minutes spent there could save you a sand and filling job, things like that. But apart from that, and a few little, you know, just bad seams where it comes together, which are easily sandable, the rest of the fit was absolutely fantastic. No problem with it at all. It was a lot of fun to do. The kit itself, the level of detail, the panel lining, things like that is absolutely fantastic. It's on a par with any of the big companies now that we'd expect it from. The way we've done this one is totally different to our normal way of doing it. To start with, to do all of this camo work, we used this stuff, which is clever putty, which as we know is like a form of panzer putty. I love this stuff. The way it did the camo work is better than using our traditional white tack way of doing it. Certainly from my point of view, I'm sold on this. To be honest, when I come back off holiday, I'm going to buy a couple of these just to have in my stash, because I think they're just really handy stuff to have, and the limitations of it are far outweighed by the pause for it. At the end of the day, you don't have that trouble with little white marks around everywhere. You don't have anything else. The only trouble that I can see from the downside of it is that it's a little bit sticky, as in when you're using it, it has a habit of wanting to stick to itself and other items. Once it's on though, and you let it sit on there and it starts to sink down and you're thinking, oh God, what's happening? Trust it, because that's giving you some of the best paint effects I've had in absolute years. It gives you that slight thing. When you're using the worm stuff, it's very hard to get heavy detail without really pressing it. This gives you that nice level of detail with hardly any work. As I said, doing the video, I would put down sheets of it and push it in instead of trying to do the worm thing. It seems to prefer that way, and it settles down a lot easier. Okay, AK paints, we didn't get on with them, but the Italeri ones, big thumbs up. That's good paint. It went down, no problem. My fears, I think, especially when you look at the box art, about the actual brown being a little bit light, I've darkened it off because obviously it's had the washes and things, but certainly from my point of view, it's pretty much on par with what I imagine in my mind's eye, looking at other references on the net. We used oils on this one right the way over it to give us our main weathering, and again they worked absolutely flawlessly. It gives you that nice level of detail, and if it does go wrong you can get them off and start again. We didn't have to in this particular case. It did everything we absolutely loved. To be honest, I'm absolutely knackered. This has been a very sort of, I wouldn't say quick build because I've done it over a few days now, but it's been filling in gaps when technically I'd normally be doing other things. So from my point of view, it's like, I can't believe I've managed to do it in time, and it's been such a rush at the end. And it's unfortunate because it's taken away some of the build, if you like. There's some of the little areas perhaps I would do slightly different. I'd like to do the gun bays in theory, but we were under the gun. We were under a time limit. We needed to get it done. So I wasn't going to waste another sort of 2 hours doing the gun areas and things like that. It's unfortunate because I think if you put them on there and opened them up, it'd be quite nice. If they do come with a diorama you can get for this particular one, with I think it's with a fuel bowser, refueling it and arming and things like that. So that would be a nice little touch with it. With the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Britain coming up, it had to be done, didn't it? As I said, I've never done Hawker Hurricane before on flory models. I've done them pre-flory models, but it's the first time in sort of now 15 years that I've built a Hawker Hurricane, and it's nice to do the Airfix one and take us back to our bare roots of it all and everything else like that. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, join me again next time.